we're talking about there, beyond chatbots. We're going to be talking about AI builders. So I had two different versions of this, and I brought one over in the plane last night. So clearly it was out of sync. But everything else, I assure you, is what we're going to speak about today. As I was introduced, all you need to know right now, I work for a consulting company, SHI, but really I'm an automation nerd. That's what you need to know. The Get Automating down there is my personal brand. It's something that I have fun with. I truly am passionate about automation. The advancements of technology are crazy. What AI has really done for this space. Reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I frequently try to be involved in the community. I believe in help and helping others, and that's how we all learn. So I appreciate things like this. Reach out to me, right? You can email me, reach out to LinkedIn. Sometimes it's just questions, sometimes it's just connecting, and I love that sort of thing. So feel free to do so. What are we going to talk about today? So really just an overview, an intro. I think it's safe to say that regardless of where you're at in the journey, we need to talk about where we are. Like, what is the state of technology? But also just kind of ease our way into what is Prompt Builder. And I absolutely love Prompt Builder. It's one of the most, in my opinion, overlooked, underrated tools within the Power Platform. And it absolutely will supercharge your workflows. So I would talk about its importance too. And that's something that has evolved over time. And then we're going to demo some of this. We're going to do some dive into the technology. You don't want to see slides, you want to see the technology. So we'll end this. I hear I get kicked off at the hour. So we'll end this a little bit early. We'll have some questions and final thoughts. So that's where we're at. I always start out all my presentations with this because I feel like it is so important, especially when we talk about the Power Platform. And I'm going to assume that there are people in the room that know of the Power Platform and those that don't. So we'll talk about it both ways. But one thing is for certain is that we've sort of entered a new era. It's happened really quickly. For the longest time, we had post-internet, and for the longest time, we kind of sit in this place we call digital transformation. I hate this word because it's just old. It doesn't feel like we're at that stage anymore. I work with a lot of people that are. And that's fine. We'll get you out of that. But that was all about spending time getting things in a digital format. Then we had a lot of global events. We had advancements in technology, AI, and that's really pushed us into this era that says, hey, this era is all about not collecting data, but using it. And what's important here, I cannot mute. There we go. We got him. So what's important, though, to understand is that this era is all about using that data, not just using it, but by tech resources, tech engineers, data scientists, right? It's about you, the individual, the end user, taking that data on their own and feeling very comfortable, not easy, feeling very comfortable using the tools. So it's very much maker-driven development. It's very much about Gen AI. It's very much about agents and very much about automation, right? And that's why we're here today. That's why we're going to talk about this, because prompt builder, it encompasses all of that. So just understand, like, this is kind of what moved us here, right? We see how things are evolving. We say customer challenges or, all kinds of challenges, whatever that may be, budget and time, infrastructure, integration with businesses, excuse me, lack of technical expertise, security, maintaining, all these things have really, for the end user, been a thing, and largely organizations and different business units. And so that's really what brought us here. And so, for those of you who are in the Power Platform user group, right? So there is probably some familiarity, but this is what we're solving for. This is the beauty of all these tools, is that you don't have to have a degree in programming. I no longer, as the end user, I have ideas. I know what the business process is. So here's my platform. I've got my low code analytics. I can develop a UX UI or an application interface. I can make something happen with that data by Power Automate. Or maybe even before anybody even gets to my domain or my organization, maybe I need a website. Maybe I need to connect external and internal. And of course, we have Dataverse, which is database as a service that makes that easy. I don't have to worry about coalescing a database or anything like that. So today we're going to dive into this. One of the particular areas I really love is Power Automate. Now, I think what you're going to see over time, and again, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is what is the future of the Power Platform? Is it all agents, where agents are kind of like you talk to the agent in Studio and it look at Plan Designer and Power Apps. It creates the app for you. It says, oh, great, we don't need an app. We just do it automation, and it creates the automation. And so think about that in context. But today we're very much going to live inside Power Automate. So prompt builder, what is it? I've got a little banner on the top of my screen. There we go. I got rid of it. All right, so prompt builder is a tab or a section now within Power Automate. It used to be a part of the AI Hub. I think it's now broken up somewhat out of there, but allows you to sort of instruct a model and then to behave. So I think the important parts are here are, instruction and behave, right? And that very much speaks to me in automation, because essentially, even though in a linear pathway, when we look at Power Automate, we are writing instructions. Sometimes they're connectors, right? Because we want it to behave in a certain way or perform a certain task. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the first part, the parts of this, the prompts, as I see them, are instructions, context, that's your data. And we'll see here in a minute when I run through some of these things, what that looks like. Output, I say get excited about this, right? Because the outputs we've gone from JSON to text. And now what we'll look at this too is document preview. And this is something I've been wanting for a really long time. And then getting even more excited about this doesn't stand alone. It's not something that is isolated and you got to go use the prompt's going to be built into workflows and additional actions. So there's a lot to really dig into this. And I use it, and some of the use cases that I'll show you here are very much use cases that are ones that I utilize. For lack of resonating, what I'm trying to do and showcasing that is just get the gears turning. Just look at that as I demo this technology. Yeah, you might not have a reason operationally for invoice processing. But the way I show it to you, perhaps there's another document processing operation that would be beneficial. So that's what we're going to look at. Now, the question is why? We have automation, so why AI? Why are we looking at prompt builder? We can use automation for a lot of what I'll show you today, but there are portions of this that aren't really allowed for the flexibility that they're needed, and you'll see that. So automation is rigid. On the right-hand side, you see the rail, right? You see the train on the rail, and it's going to stick to that rail for the most part, unless a catastrophe happens. And we hope not, but it's designed with the very rigid guardrails. So, and if you did, and we'll see a little bit of Power Automate, it is, hey, if this, then that, boom, boom, boom. And you can have some conditional logic and flexibility, but for the most part, that is very much a manual binary value, true or false, and it's still rigid. AI is not. Now, AI is inconsistent, so I don't have this slide in here, but oftentimes I like to compare the two. Maybe you need it to be rigid, and that's okay too. So not every tool is a hammer. This isn't going to solve for everything, and it has to be used appropriately. But by using Prompt Builder, we can combine both of these worlds. So we are allowed to have some rigidness, right, with the automation, but yet maybe we have a little flexibility with AI. And that's what really this is offering us. So it's really, for me, it's taken some of these things to the next level, where I'm not sitting there and having to understand and procure in my mind a scenario for every single use case that may happen. I'm letting AI take care of that work. So here's what we're going to look at today. Now, there's lots of different Microsoft categorizes in 5 different areas. We'll dig into that in a minute. I want to show one, document extraction, because don't we need to train a model? Like traditionally, we would go out there to AI Builder and we get your 5 sets of documents and train them. And now, we got a new use case. Let's train it again. Do we have to do that? Now, certainly some of these scenarios that you run into are very complex, and we may need to do that, but not necessarily. So we're going to look at that. Can we utilize, as a part of the workflow, can we utilize this to analyze our reason? Humans need to make the call, is what we say. Well, do they really? I agree with human in the loop, but can we utilize AI? Can we use Prompt Builder to help us make better decisions? And I'll show you what I mean by that. And then, of course, create and document generation. And now we know GPT, OpenAI, Copilot, all those things, we know about content generation. But one of the things that I have struggled with some of this is, can I create it and create artifacts and media in a way that I need them, right? So very unique scenario, one that's probably not as unique as I think it is. The use case that I'll give you is something that I have to utilize, a process that I utilize. But again, it's one of these things where I have to have it in a certain way, and I just can't ask GPT, or otherwise I'm copying and pasting into another document, which is something that I think we all face. So we're going to check out that. And now it's demo time, the most exciting time. So we're going to hop right into it. All right, so here we are. We are in Power Automate, make.powerautomate.com. And we're over here off to the side in prompts. Now, you may not see prompts. You may have to go down to more, and you may have to pin it there. And honestly, I can't remember when this started showing up. I feel like they made it its own tab a few months back. But who knows? I'm in here. Sometimes I don't notice things. They're making changes every 2 minutes. So it could have been there for a long time, and I just misread it there. So, well, let's take a look here on the landing page. Interesting. We got build our own prompt, which is what we'll do today, for more so just to demonstrate the technology in a way we want to. But look at all these templates here as we go out a little bit. We can see that it is not a small list of pre-populated prompts to even, you could probably use these out of box, but just to get you started. And I don't have the link on me. Maybe one of you in the community does, but there's also, if you go out there to Microsoft Learn and just Google prompt library or AI Hub prompts, generative prompts in Power Automate, there is a repository out there of more prompts. Folks like April Dunham and others in the community have also come up with like a promptathon, and it's manifested some additional prompts. So you have those as well. And like I said, we're going to focus on some like creation, extraction, AI reasoning, which I bundled with analyze, because I think sometimes they're one and the same. We're technically not analyzing it. We're more reasoning, but I wanted to put that in there as well. But you have all those already in here. So today we're actually just going to take a look at a few. We're going to start out with invoice processing. Why do I use invoice processing? Well, partly because it's something traditionally that we've gone out there and we said, hey, we got to go to the AI Hub. We got to create a model for this. We got to train it. And of course, if it's complex, maybe we do need to do that. That's probably, there is a threshold there that we need to be aware of. But we can also just create something very simple too. So let's click on this one that I pre-created for us. And this is our prompt canvas, if you will. Right, so let's take a look at a couple things here. One, we now can execute. We got a new code generation feature. It's something cool I haven't played around with, but I'm really excited. Also, I clicked on, actually, I'll click back a little bit. This one's, I'm ready to start testing this too. So we got a test hub now where we can test some of this out. I haven't played around with it, but it caught my eye earlier. Like, oh man, I can't. I got to stick to doing what we're doing here. But anyway, that's really cool. That this is clearly something that they're working on. So very simple, right? I've created a prompt here in instructions. Here is our canvas for instructions. We can select the model as well. By default, it's got your 4.1 mini. You have some others in there, and if you have a model in Foundry, you bring that in. You can use this against those particular models. So it's absolutely brilliant there. Now, for instructions, like I mentioned, most of these are the instructions, but we can give it additional context. And the way we do that, so you are an assistant designed to extract fields from a billing invoice. That's the context in this use case. And how did I get that to pop up? Just the / here. So we have right now, we have text, image or document, power effects. We can even go over here and we can bring in a new connection. And if we don't have the ability here we don't have the data in an input that it can receive, then we have the ability over in Power Automate, of course, to get that data manipulated in a day that perhaps is extractable with this. But for now, I'm just using right here, I'm just using an image or document. That's the one we'll use. And you'll see that in just a second. So I'm going to remove that. So I'm actually telling it, identify and extract the following fields. I don't have to do that. It would probably give me everything I need. But I have it in there just to show it what good looks like. I've also indicated, again, everything's about prompt engineering. I say, I want to disregard anything that's blank. And I do that because if I have invoices that aren't exactly the same, I might have one says, okay, give me the website. Somebody might not have their website on there. And when you do that, you're just going to have a null field. And I don't necessarily want to do that. The other thing that's interesting here is checking for a signature. Can it do that? So I put a condition in here to say, hey, look, I want you to give me a variable. And the brilliant part about this is later on, we'll be able to use this dynamic data in our flow. So I just give it some more instructions here and say, hey, read the invoice to find each field, organize it in a structured format, and don't capture payment information or product details. I don't need that. But list items purchased in a table and output as an individual element in JSON. Now, I don't necessarily have to tell it JSON in this particular use case because when we come over here to the output, we're able to identify and customize exactly what we want here. So we can see already what this is going to look like. I've primed this already, or it wouldn't have anything in here. It wouldn't. I've technically not uploaded the invoice here yet. But let's go ahead. We have the ability to customize what that payload, what that array looks like. And then we can even customize the output. So now if this was text, we could clarify a little more on what we wanted to do in the instructions. Clearly, we're looking at JSON here. That's what we want. And the reason why we want JSON, it's important, is because if we have this in an array and we look to use Power Automate later on, this is the format that it expects. We're going to look at document preview in a little bit here, but let's go back up to billing invoice. So here's our context. Here's our data. Now, I believe sometimes when you go back and edit this, your sample data is not there. In this particular use case, I am going to upload this again. So I'm going to come over here and grab the files. We're in invoices. And the first one, I'll show you right here, that I'm going to use. This is what it looks like. So it's fairly straightforward, but I will tell you, you could have a napkin invoice, and it's really good about grasping that. So we're going to look at that real quick. I'm going to grab this one. And notice this one does not have a signature. So we've uploaded that. That's just our sample data. This is just our test playground. And we click test. And in a moment here, we're going to see the results pop in. Now, here's another one that I have here. Totally different, by the way. Didn't do any model training. It has a signature. So we're going to put this one in here in just a moment. So as you can see here, we have all the data that we need. We have a variable for signature, which is going to come into play later, which is fantastic. Like I didn't have to do anything here. I didn't have to drop down conditions, true or false. Like it just gave it to me. Fine. All right, let's do a different one. Let's try this other one here. So let's go back. Let's grab this, close and test. Right. Waiting. All right, look at this. We can see already true, and we've got a totally different, same format, but we've got the right thing. This is actually what's in the document. It threw me off at first because I just asked Copilot to create an invoice for me. It's just easy enough. But I was like, wait a minute here. Did it just assume? No, it didn't assume. That's what is in there. So on its own, context is fine, right? But let's see. Do I have? See if I have another window open. Probably don't. No, that's fine. We'll just come out of here for a minute. So this is what that looks like. Now, this is the model itself. This is what we built. But if we come over here to flows, we can look at the simple invoice extractor and how we can use this as a part of what we're doing. So the scenario here is that we don't need to continually upload document. That's not helpful, right? We don't need to go to that mechanism or playground. What we need is this probably built into a workflow. So if we come over here and we say, okay, when a new email arrives, we want to do something. In this particular use case, we want to run that prompt against it. We can see here that it's the simple invoice extractor prompt that we just built. And the billing invoice is the content, right? So that is what we are running up against, what we're doing in there. The actual PDF or the file that's being uploaded. The content here is mapping back to our attachment. Okay, so what I have over here is we're going in here and we'll do more and we'll look for that content. And I'll just put it in there. Attachment content. There we go. Attachments content. Right there it is. So that's what it is really looking at. So it's looking at whatever content there. It's going to run that prompt on it just as I upload the document. But the cool part is here, look, we've got all the information here. So not only like, is the condition, is it signed? We can say, hey, remember that variable that we put in there? We are going to leverage that. Voila, boom. Now we have some conditions based on that, just the simple instructions there. And we can go down here to send if it's true. We can maybe send it off and do some stuff with it. We've got customer name in here because we extracted that from the document. We have a quantity because I didn't know what else to put there. But here we go. We have something under false as well. And maybe it sends it right back to them and says, hey, by the way, signature required. Go get this done. Stop being, come on, let's get it done, right? So here's a great scenario, right? The invoice of how we use prompt engineering very quickly. Probably took me 5 minutes to write that prompt, or we could use Copilot to help us write it, and off we go. So invoice extraction. Let's take a look at another scenario. So we're going back to our prompts here. And I do find like it's a little faster now, but I do find like it's got so many prompts. I think I wish they'd kind of take those prompts and put them somewhere else because they think or limit them to less than what they have. So I know they say see more, but it seems to churn a lot here. So it's got a lot of data it's trying to process. So we're going to go to the next one here. Let's go ahead and do the request qualifier. Let me see if that's the one I want. I think that's the one I want to do. Yeah, this one's a really
sorry for disrupting.
Please recall in this particular scenario, we're really going to be diving into the AI reasoning. And so the scenario here is that I get requests, and these requests here. So these requests come into a SharePoint document library, or excuse me, a list. And so what I want it to do, though, there's a lot of information here. Not all of it needs my attention. So what I want to do is have the model look at this particular instance and the request and say, hey, I need you to extract some key information.
We can see your screen. Sorry for...
Oh, you can't see it?
Yeah, we can't see it now.
Can you see it?
No, it's not coming.
All right, let me try again here.
It says coming. Yes, we can see now. Okay.
All right, we're good. So here we are. And what we're looking at here is a request, right? And this is the prompt that I've created. I want it to extract some key information from the request. We have, who submitted it, the team lead there. What is the technology, right? I need to know what technology there. And then I want it to determine if it represents a good opportunity for my team, the data and AI team, right? So we're looking through those. And I don't want everything, right? Like my team specifically, I want the individuals that I'm working with to be well on their way on their journey, right? Those are the ones I really want to help because they're deep in it, right? And we have a lot of individuals that can help. Some help in products, some help in sort of early discussions, right? So I want those types of things. And so I want to determine the customer needs and that they're ready to move forward to help with their journey. Right. So we're looking at all these things. I want to disregard certain things. And so what ends up being, I say, respond in this particular nature. Now it's interesting here, the request the data here that I have, I'm actually just entering that request, just stripping it from SharePoint and dropping it right in here. And so essentially, I'm actually not going to model this one. I've got one just like it that I am going to model. But essentially the output here, just a second here, it looks like this. Okay, so, same scenario, and we'll go through another workflow here in a minute. I just wanted to showcase this one. Like, I think this is a good one to analyze. I've got one similar, but here it is. Like, the request was put in by Joe Smith, and it says, okay, hey, he mentioned AI system, and this is probably good. And based off of this, it says, the customer wants to build an AI system they could leverage, but also charge other credit units. So it's giving me a link to the details. So again, we're asking it to do something that otherwise I would have to look at the request. It's analyzing it for me, and I can still analyze the request. I can still decide. I may look at that and be like, oof, I won't touch this one, right? So there is that as well. So let's go over here, though, to the pipeline follow-up, because I think this is a really good one. So I'll give you the scenario here. Is I have all these projects that I'm in charge of, that I'm providing details, providing proposals for them, and they sit in our systems that are very much disconnected from anything else in our environment. And I think this is a common scenario that a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals suffer from. So we have, this data points, and most of these aren't really that important to me. We've got the opportunity name. We've got how old it is. This is all extracted. I just downloaded this CSV because I don't have API access to the system. I could use RPA, but again, we need to understand, like, is it better to use RPA or is it just as fast to pull the list and what I'll show you today with Prompt Builder. So the idea here is I have these requests. They're old. I have a lot of data here, including email. How can I use what I have, and how can I use Prompt Builder to follow up with these individuals? So here's the list. And one thing I'll point out is it's in a table. We all know working with Excel, we have to have it, but that's as easy as going in here after I download the list and saying, hey, insert a table, boom, now it's a table, right? So I come over here and I say, hey, I need a prompt engineering or prompt instructions for email generation. So here it is. I said, you're an assistant, because I don't want to type up an email, but I also want it to be, I don't want to be generic. Now I could do this through automation, but why? Right? Because it's going to help me craft the email, and it's going to be unique. It's going to pull in and facilitate the right information at the right time based off of some of the characteristics. So you'll notice here, we have agent days, but we have a certain stage in there. So it gives us some flexibility, right? Now I could code this in Power Automate, and I could say, hey, here's my data. I want you to put the agent days here. I want you to put the stage here. And by the way, grab this and this, but I want to give it some flexibility. I don't want it to be so rigid. So here what I'm doing is saying, hey, look, go ahead and develop the email for me to the AE by name. And it needs to be neatly formatted in HTML. So keep in mind, and this was a video I think that was put out a while ago. This is kind of a trade secret, but we oftentimes, when we get our output, it looks like garbage if we're trying to pass that right to an email. So I like neatly, I like pretty. I use those terms, and I'll use HTML afterwards. Like make it pretty, put it in HTML, because that is what Outlook is expecting. So do some explaining to the AE of what this is, let them know it is automation. And here's what I like. Like I actually give it an example of what good looks like. So then I could craft this, right? It's just so much easier to put it in here. And the cool thing is like, how do we test this out? Well, we're just going to come over here and grab one line of this. That's all we need. And if we take that one line and go into record data here and just pop it in there like that, it looks like trash, but it's smart enough to understand. So let's see what this looks like. And again, what output are we using here? JSON. Why are we using JSON? Well, because we're going to use that in our Power Automate flow. And we need different components. We don't want the whole body of what was generated here to be in one particular field. No, we're going to break this up. So we can see here for Jordan Bailey, we've got two. So that's one piece of dynamic data we can grab. Subject, perfect. We've got this. And notice it has everything already in there the right way. Body talks about what it is. This is what it ends up looking like. I'm not going to showcase the actual, or maybe I will. I'll go look and see if I have it. But this is, hi, Stephanie, this automated pipeline checker. It's bolded that. I could tell it not to if I wanted to, but this is nice because automatically they know it's like, oh gosh, 3 days it's been open. Could you please provide an update? Great. So let's take a look at what I'm doing here. Let's go over to the flows and see if I have that. I do, which is great. I just has this as an automated one. Now, if I could get that data over there and I do some stuff and get it to a table, I could have this fully like scheduled out. But again, I try to figure out like, am I going to spend 5 hours doing this? Is it going to save me that much time? Because it takes me 5 minutes to get this over there. So what I'm doing here, running it manually, I can just drop that file in. So manually trigger it. You can ask for the file here. I did not do that here, but I would ask for the file, right? And now it's looking at the file. This particular use case, I'm just listing the rows, so I don't even need to ask for it. It's pointed statically to the table and where this sits on the desktop. So it's pointed statically to our pipeline sample table. And then we come over here, and now we can run the prompt on. Again, we're running a prompt on each individual record in that table. And so we could see here, here's the prompt, current item is obviously the current item it's on in our Excel table. And then we're sending an email, boom, like I've cut out a lot, in my opinion, I've cut out a lot of the work here. And just saying, hey, you know what? Have AI craft the email, have it be personal. And I can even back in my prompt engineering instructions, I can even take that a step farther and say, hey, look, I want every one of these emails to be very unique. On the customer, the certain stage it's in, say, hey, look, it's in the proposal stage. So be honest with them and say, hey, I know this is just, 10 days old, but, kind of my thoughts here. So it offers me a little more freedom in this right here. And that's the important thing. If we were to do this in automation, the body of this particular email, I would need to hard code in there. And I could bring in dynamic pieces, that's fine, but it would be a very standardized email. So using AI, I'm able to create this in a way that's very, very flexible, right? Okay, so let's move forward here. I've got one more to show you. And if we come back over to prompts, again, we will spin and spin and spin here. Any questions, by the way? I don't know if we if you want to pause and ask questions, but I'm happy to answer any if we have any.
No questions in the chat right now. Maybe at the end of the session, we may collect
it's fine. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got one more to show you now. This one is very new. This is the document preview. And so what I've done here in this scenario, and this is where we can kind of check out our new outputs here. And I might even do one with text here because we didn't look at that. But here's the scenario. I have to come up with a proposal, right? This one has to be, happens to be for Dr. Emmett Brown. If you're a fan of Back to the Future, then this is for you. If you have not watched Back to the Future, you should watch Back to the Future. Not life-changing, but a fun little movie. And so I've got some stuff in here, the team members, you've got an executive summary. Down here, I have an approach, discover, design, build, adopt. And I want you to notice here, there's nothing really, yes, we list these objectives, but two things. There's no summary to these, right? And also when I look at the people here, I don't have emails. So we come over here, I say, hey, here's a document that I have. I want to translate it over to a statement of work. And I'm letting it know that the executive summary should be 3 to 5 sentences. I don't have it. I want you to analyze the document and give me one. The emails will be the name of the individual followed by this, because that is the company that this particular proposal comes from. And each phase, there will be a 2 to 3 sentence description followed by the objective. So it has to come up with that. I don't have that. It's going to look at those objectives. Now, here's the trick. We can do this today in Copilot. That's not a problem, right? The real trick here is that I need this in a format that adheres to policy. So now you'll understand this here in just a second, but this is the format that I needed in. You can see I have placeholders, but this is how I need it to be. I don't want to spend the time copying and pasting over. Save me. So what's really cool about document preview here is that we can come in here. We've got to select document preview, but if we go to document settings, I already have this in there today, but let me go ahead and remove it. And I'm going to go ahead and select the Word document that I have. And here it is. Oh, let me shut it down here. All right, well, let's take a look at it before I do that. So we notice that and this is in the documentation. I'll show you that in a minute. This is the format that is expecting it, the double brackets, right? When it has a double bracket, it's going to pick that up and it's going to be indicated as a field. Notice here as well, I have these double brackets in the header as well, which I think is pretty remarkable, but we'll see that here in a minute. So I'm going to close it down and I'm going to go ahead and suck it in. And here we are, 15 identified fields. Do they have a header field? They don't, but I think what's interesting is that I think those are linked together in the document. But either way, it gets the field there. So this is what it looks like. This is what it's expecting. In fact, I'm gonna take that out real quick because I want to show you. If you click on here, it's got great documentation on if it comes up here on what it's expecting to see. So you can actually drive through this particular one. This one gives you an invoice. So that kind of be interesting. We picked up on what we did earlier. But this is one you can go through on your own as well. So pretty interesting. But it talks about what it expects in terms of the document template. So we're going to grab that one more time here. All right, so here we are. We've got that information. Now we need to give it a document. Now, one thing to understand is that this is in PowerPoint. So we do need to save that as what it's expecting is a PDF or an image. It will not accept the PowerPoint. So if we go over here, I've already converted this to a PDF, even though I've got a new machine, so it doesn't look like it's a PDF. This is a PDF. And that's what we're going to use to suck into the system and test it. Now it's going to do some work. So that's a large document, you know, it's 15, maybe around 15, 20 slides. So it's going through that. And first it has to interpret the data. It has to interpret the different objectives and summary. And so that's why it takes a little bit of time here. But in a moment here, we're going to see the output, and I think you're going to be pleasantly pleased. So right here, it gives us the verbose response, which is fantastic because before I even click on this output here, I can see, okay, here's the title. It got that right. It got that right. Oh, look, it got my emails, right? We did not include those in there. And then it's also got my summaries as well as my objectives. So if you click on this now, we'll be able to see exactly what this looks like. So I'm going to go over to desktop here. I'm just going to put it in. Let me just go right here. Actually. All right. And so we'll just click on that document. And here we are. So this is the output that it gives us, right? We can see that based off of our template, it's added in. And of course, we've got some weird stuff here, but that's not because of that. That's because of the template. So I need to adjust my template a little bit. We can see I've got engagement, and that's spelled wrong only because see what happens when you don't spell things right, it will not replace the field. So this particular one, it's spelled wrong, so it didn't get that field, and there you go. If it had been spelled right, we would have had a match and it would have dropped in, because clearly we can see that this particular one, statement of work for Dr. E. Brown Enterprise, has been replaced. We've got our executive summary. And then we have our different phases here. Now, one thing we notice here in this particular one is it only gave us bullets for the first one. Now, what's interesting is, I'll tell you, and I don't want to work through this particular problem, but there's two ways of going about this that I've found. I can tell it in the prompt engineering instructions. I could come over here and say, hey, make sure objectives, each one is separated by a new line, or it has bullets or bulleted list. I've asked it to separate it by a new line. Okay, the reason why I do that is because if you ask it to create bullets, there are going to be bullets as characters as opposed to a bulleted list. I don't particularly like that, although I've worked with this over the past couple of weeks, and I'm starting to lean towards just having it create the bullets, and just leaving them like that. And if you have to edit anything, that's when you go back and you start to change things around. But I mean, easily I could come in here too and just do one of those guys, right? And say, okay. And I guess I don't hate it because it keeps human in the loop. Let's see if I can say followed by objectives in a bulleted list. So let's do that instead. Now let's test it out and see what we get in this particular one. So you can see here that it's not perfect, but it certainly is better than copying and paste things over. And it's in the format that I need, which is remarkable. So think about this, because we had one the other day. Actually, Zach and I, and I think Zach's still here. Yeah, Zach and I were actually in a call the other day where the organization said, hey, we've got a lot of documents, a lot of procedures that have to be documented. Everybody hates documentation because it has to be in a standard work order. It has to be in a standard format, right? So think about this, like, man, if we could just take that prompt and dump it into a design document or a SOP, standard order of procedures or something like that, how much work it would cut out. And we're just now reviewing and say, hey, does everything look good? That's perfect. So let's see what we got over here. Whoops, grabbed the wrong thing. So let's look here in the output that we have here. We may have solved for it, but we may have not solved for it. Let's just take a look. I should have fixed my my engagement there, but that's okay. We'll replace the old one and see what we got here. All right. So it's coming over on the other one. Let's see, moment of truth. So I don't like it. I should, I could be more specific. Now I got that in there, and of course, I could just remove that, and we could keep it at that, or we could work within the prompt engineering to understand, hey, like, what do we need to do here to make this word, like, hey, make sure it's a circle bullet, and I think that could probably pass instead. And then we have everything in order there. So really powerful there. What I'm anticipating to see here soon is that perhaps we've got document preview right now that gets us Word. I would expect to see something maybe as PowerPoint, because we know as we use Copilot for M365, that's really powerful, how we can tell it just to create a PowerPoint for me. But we also struggle with some things like, well, wait a minute. You gave it to me in this format, and I can't use that, so I'm copying and pasting it over to our organizational templates. So this one in particular is really powerful. And of course, right, like if we look to a workflow, we know that, hey, once we have this document, maybe we can even get it to the right routed folder in SharePoint. And things like that. So I really am, and this feature excites me, and I think it grows over time, and how it will work into the particular workflows in Power Automate, as well as agents being able to interface with an agent, saying, hey, I need you to create a PowerPoint for me. That's the first one, right? And I need you to do it in this particular way, but I want to use AI. I want some input there. And then being able to say, okay, thank you for that. Here's my PowerPoint. I need you to convert this to some sort of document that I'm going to use, a more formal document that has a particular template. Because we constantly, doing this back and forth dance between PowerPoint and Word. And yes, we have AI, but for myself and probably many of you, it's not exactly in the format we need. So we have become copy and paste experts these days. And we can cut that out so that, now instead of copying and pasting, and other than, some of the issues we see here, it is in preview. I can focus on the actual content. So I can sit here and start to read, hey, do things make sense? Like, and it's all in the prompt engineering too. So let's read this and say, okay, the discover phase involves assessing the current health, collecting baseline. And I will say, hey, I don't know if I particularly like this summary. So I go back to the prompt engineer and say, look, I want you to summarize each phase, but I don't need you to regurgitate each phase. Like that's pretty generic. So why don't we just talk about the spirit of the phase? Maybe you want to list a few objectives, but ultimately I just need to convey what this phase is about, right? Like this phase is about us learning about the flux capacitor and, Dr. E. Brown's organization, and what's going on there, root problems and, historical data, right? Those sorts of things. But ultimately, this is about really getting to know the organization in this particular use case and the problems that they have. Right. So that's what I would expect to see this, but it's only as good as the instructions that we give it. So in wrapping up here, so leaving some time for questions, this is again really powerful. I'll go back to I'll just leave off this, right? We'll go full screen, it's fine. So these are things involving AI, right? Start simple, iterate, test. I've had a lot of fun just playing around with this, and oftentimes we don't need to over engineer. I've gone out there and sometimes as I get in the habit, I'll go out to Copilot and say, hey, give me some agent instructions or give me some prompt engineering instructions for this scenario. And I find that a lot of times they're just cumbersome, and I don't learn a whole lot. So I really enjoy prompt engineering, right? There's an art to it, but we don't need to over engineer. You saw like back in the example that I gave here, look how simple that is. I mean, I'm gonna say there's not much there, and I tell you, like it didn't start that way. I added my iteration was, oh hey, it gave me. It didn't know what to put in the email. I've got to specify that because it's not listed. Or hey, just like we just walked through, like, hey, this is a bulleted list. Like I need to go back. Like I've experimented with this so much, I've probably broken it, but I need to go back and see, well, how can I get it to be in a bulleted list that I'm okay with? Not a hyphen. I don't want a hyphen, right? So I can specify that. I can even put in here, I think what would work well is giving an example. So you go rip off an example here and say, hey, in fact, got me. We're gonna do it right now. We're gonna go see. So let's see what we can do here, and see if that works. So we have a little bit of time. So messed it up there. Let's just grab these. All right. So. I'll get rid of that one. Let me see if I can tab it over before I. It's fine. I'll do that. Let's see here. All right. Let's just see it. I'm not promising anything. So anyway, why that's working in the background. Don't over engineer, right? Start out simple. You could always add more, but sometimes less is more, right? And every word matters, as you just saw there in the instructions. What we're doing there is really important. The refinement. So let's just see what we got real quick here. Do I have the document open still? I do. Get rid of that. Fingers crossed. Again, no promises, no promises. So we still have our first one, but it looks better, right? I can just take that off, and I mean it's okay, right? I think the point here is I indicated bulleted list, so it gave me the bullet, and then it gave me this. I think if I had not said bulleted list, say hey, just do it in this format, we'd probably get it pretty close. But those are the types of things we can do there, and that's why instructions paramount, right? Every word matters. Like I said, in this case, that bulleted list got me, right? And again, I started out very small and I built over time. Don't rely on vibe checking here. I think that's one thing that's important. Like we do get in the habit a lot, just as I just did. And we say, okay, well, how do we check? How do we test things, right? Well, typically we do it by looking at the output. And I think that's fine for on a personal level, or even sometimes maybe a business unit level. But as it becomes a larger solution that many people rely on, let's make sure that we are following appropriate development cycles, right? When we look at this thing, just because it gives us the outcome that we're looking for and desire doesn't mean it's right. So we need to make sure that we're also relying on those. So hopefully, as we end up here, like you understand this, like this is the important, like why are we using these tools? Because we're able to use this and it makes us faster. It's more flexible than automation, and it's not a replacement for automation. It's to augment what we're already doing automation and use it to make the solution better. So with that, I'll stop here sharing and we can open up